to you. In fact, they're much closer to these federal agencies when they're inside the Beltway. That's who they hear from all the time on the budget committees and everywhere else. And it's very, very hard to penetrate the wall of the power of the federal government within Washington, D.C. and within the Congress and administration.
Okay. So what's it going to take, in your mind, to get some hearings in Congress?
You know, I have asked that and checked around congressional offices on it, and people are reluctant to do anything. Well, most of our friends on this issue, most of them are Democrats. And the Democrats, well, of course, the Democrats aren't in power now. The Republicans are prohibitionists, so they're perfectly happy. But when we did have Democrats in control of Congress, they're reluctant to embarrass the sitting president anyhow. So that's a difficulty as well. The congressional offices that I've spoken to have said that they were really looking for an initiative from the administration to change drug policy. They don't want to take it on their own initiative. So that's the problem we're confronted with at the moment.
Yeah, well, I don't believe that this is a partisan issue. Dianne Feinstein, as you know, is one of the biggest drug warriors out there.
She's a major reason that we've had zero progress on this issue in the U.S. Senate, because she sits on the Judiciary Committee, and she is a hardcore prohibitionist, has been all her life, and always tries to put more money into the drug war. International drug war is her thing. And she's not going anywhere on this issue.
Because it's too profitable for her?
Look, she's got enough money, she doesn't have to worry about profit, but it's just sort of been, it's been her thing. She's an older generation person anyhow. I think that she's always felt this was all evil stuff, from the 60s.
Right. Okay, so she's basically a conservative wrapped in Democrat clothing. Got it. Okay.
Correct.
Interesting. Well, I mean, bringing it back home to the Bay Area, in particular Oakland, Oaksterdam University, they're going to be opening up again. With this particular raid, IRS, DEA, and U.S. Marshals with OPD, Oakland Police Department, around the perimeter. This all came down to basically an IRS issue for Richard Lee. How is this all going to play out, or is there a prediction of how this is going to play out?
I heard he was cooperating with the IRS.
Well,
of course he's cooperating.
Well, I think Richard is not the only person in that position. I mean, we have Harborside Collective also, which has a very public IRS problem going on at the moment, and I think they would like to pay off whatever bills the IRS thinks are reasonable. And the reasonable way to do this normally is the IRS lets them stay in business and pay some taxes. What is unusual is to actually bust somebody, making it impossible to pay the taxes. That brings it to a different level than typically.
So ultimately that would lead to a conclusion that it was beyond the tax issue.
I think perhaps so. I think it got wrapped up in this larger federal crackdown that's been going on, that's clearly directed from, Washington, from somewhere inside the Justice Department.
I think it's twofold, and maybe more than that. But his dispensary received a letter, and they opened up a few doors down, as well as he and his organization virtually single-handedly funded getting Prop 19 on the ballot. So you put those two things together. He's thumbing his nose at federal government, so they're going to make a model out of him.
Well, I think that's a reasonable hypothesis. Yes. The question is, why didn't this happen earlier? Why didn't they try to go at while the campaign was going on and sabotage the campaign as it was happening? But I think it's sort of, the federal government is not that organized or coordinated, and it takes a while for these things to happen.
Interesting. Well, we'll see what happens with Oakster Dam. All the teachers are now on a volunteer basis. 100 employees lost their jobs. They are now technically laid off or on unemployment.
Well, they've lost health care too. But
They've lost their health
but fortunately, they will be forced to buy their own health care in a couple years, so everything will be better.
Right. And at yesterday's rally in downtown Oakland at the Federal Building, Local 5, which represents the dispensary workers, was there. Their international president, Dan Rush, was there, and it was a joy to see him. And
He's here today, actually.
Yeah.
he is here today. Okay, we're definitely going to try to get Dan Rush back over here. If we're not able to, you can go to Pacifica Radio KPFA's website at kpfa.org, go to the archives, and look at yesterday's date, 4/20, and check out a couple of sound bites and a pretty long discussion on Flashpoints. That's at the 5 o'clock hour, 5 p.m., 4/20 yesterday. And check out Dan Rush. But we're definitely going to try to get him over here within the next 6 to 7 hours to talk about what's going on with the union, with Local 5, and how they are supporting the displaced employees of Oakster Dam and Coffee Shop Blue Sky. So, Dale, are there any other...
Well, we're certainly encouraging everybody to please register your displeasure about this with the president. I actually had a rally yesterday on 4/20, a protest, as you know, which you covered, where we went down to the Obama campaign headquarters and presented him with a petition asking him to fulfill his campaign pledge to respect state medical marijuana laws. And I honestly think that if Mr. Obama had his drug, I don't think he really himself intended to do this, but the agencies are out of control and they're on their own agenda, and it's going to take some presidential leadership to straighten this out.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. Definitely agree with that. Co-host?
And you can visit the California Normal website to send a message to the president. That's www.canormal.org. CANORML.org. That's the National Organization for Reform of Marijuana Laws. Just say normal, as we say.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Patrick.
If there's been a consistent message that I've heard today about, what do we do with the situation that we're faced with, is grassroots activism, education. Those of you out there that understand this issue, take action on this issue, reach out to your representatives, reach out to your family members. We need to move this movement mainstream so that those inside the Beltway actually catch on to the drift that they're of the minority opinion on this issue.
That's right. And also, Angel Reich will be speaking too. People have any issues, if you're on the fence about cannabis activism and about cannabis usage, medicinal usage, etc., check out the talk by Angel Reich. We should have been streaming that. I'm not exactly sure if we did have it streamed, but I do have an interview that I did with her. Yesterday's archive, kpfa.org, Letters in Politics, that's at 10 a.m. And she talks about the CPS, Child Protective Services, and how that affects cannabis users who have children. So if you're kind of on the fence about where to go with that, check out that interview. And we're going to try to get Dan Rush and whoever else we can get our hands on over here at the Deep Green Festival and Conference at the Craneway Pavilion in Richmond, California. You're listening to Pacifica Radio, KPFA 94.1 FM, and we're also streaming it live and direct. I'm Sabrina Jacobs, Patrick Coggin, Dale Geiringer. If I don't get your last name right, I'll buy you dinner. Okay?
Hey, buy me dinner. It's Geiringer.
Oh! Geiringer, director of NORML, California NORML, longtime cannabis activists. They're all here on the panels, and we'll be back.